In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the interior finishes, things like drywall, the tile work installation, cabinetry, flooring, and more. Court Earhart is going to take us through the fit and finishes that they're going to be placing in the model. Let's dive into it.
So the stages of drywall is they're putting glue on, we're putting the drywall board on, we're screwing the drywall now instead of nailing the drywall so that we don't get the nail pops. The screws bite better into the wood and hold better, and you don't get pushed out of the wood as the drying process occurs. But this is also a good time to talk about the improvements over time, over the last 20, 30 years of drywall. I talked earlier about screws, going from nailing to screws. The other big improvement is corner beads. And we have two types of corner beads. We've got a rounded bead and a square bead. And what happens is, instead of nailing these on, and these are areas where you may get some more compression, and we used to have nail pops and issues on those because the metal bead was actually nailed on. Now it's just taped and mudded, so it actually sits on the drywall, which doesn't shrink where the wood could, and so you don't end up with corner pops anymore. Here's a great example of a rounded bead, and this is what the rounded bead actually looks like before it's put on. And you can see that what happens is it goes right on the corner like this, and it's mudded in place. There's no screws or nails, and this gets the great rounded corner. Now, the other type of bead we have is a square bead, and this is what the square bead looks like. The square bead, you can actually see it's actually metal on the back side, and it's got paper on the outside. And this is put onto a corner the same way and mudded on, and so it creates a good square corner. It's fixed to the drywall, but not the wood behind it, and that's why we don't get nail pops on corners anymore like we used to. Once that's put up, we've got the next stage, which we call finishing the drywall. We have two drywall boards meeting, and so we've mudded, taped, mudded over this, and we've got our middle coat and then a finish coat on here to make sure that there's no movement in the seam and you get a good flat finish. These areas here are actually where the screws are, and so screws are put in place, they're mudded, middle coat and a finish coat to ensure that every screw, you've got a flat finish on your wall. They haven't sanded this yet, and so actually it's kind of fun. You can see like a little bead here, and this is the art of drywall. This is amazing that these guys have not sanded yet, and it is so incredibly smooth. For those of you who have tried to do drywall work at home, you can appreciate with everything there's an art, and drywall finishing is absolutely an art. So we're in the bathroom, which is a great place to talk about the different types of drywall we use. There's kind of your standard drywall that we use in houses that are not in wet areas. In basements, we'll actually use a mold-resistant drywall on the bottom 4 feet. And in bathrooms where we have wet areas, this is a really good example. This is called cement board, and this cement board is used in the tile areas to give the tile a really good bond to the wall and protect, because drywall wouldn't hold up in a wet environment. Now, right above this is what we call green board. And again, this is one of those things where we've had improvement over time. Oftentimes people use green board under tile, where really the best way to do it is what we do with cement board under tile. But in these areas that are above that don't get water, but you still have a little bit of a moist environment, we'll use green board, because as tile goes up into these areas, you still want to have a really good bond, and green board acts that way. And so you can see the transition here between materials. So what you're seeing here is the cement board tile walls. You're seeing the rubber pan that ensures there's no leakage, that the mud will be put in the tile base. You're seeing the curb as well that doesn't allow water to come out of the shower. And then this also has a neat option to it. This has got a seat in the shower, and so that's this built-up box that you're seeing that has the cement board on top of it, and that'll comprise, again, the behind the tile section of the shower. So after drywall is complete, the next stage on the interior finish of the walls is our painter will be coming in, priming the walls, priming and painting the ceiling in preparation for our trim carpenter to come in. And the reason that we do priming prior to trim is we want to make sure that we get an excellent finish on the trim, and so we prime the walls first, and that way, when we prime the walls, we aren't getting overspray on our trim. Tile can be installed on both a horizontal and a vertical surface. When we do it on a horizontal surface, which is basically the floor, what we're doing is, in order to get a good solid structure, we actually put cement board down first. This will give a really good base for the tile, and then the tile is installed on top of that. When we do it on a wall, it may be simply installed on normal drywall, which you might have in your kitchen if you've got a tile backsplash. However, in a bathroom, we'll either do it on green board, or if it's in the shower, we'll do it again on a cement board to give a really good structure and protect the base of the tile as it's installed. So once the drywall's been primed, the next stage is to have our trim carpenters come in. They're going to be installing the cabinetry, they're going to be installing trim around the windows, around doors, and they'll also potentially, depending on what you've done, do some special trim work, like a coffered ceiling, they may be doing a wainscoting. All of this is done as the next stage after we prime the drywall. Here's another interesting thing. The countertops only come in 10-foot lengths, and so when you've got a longer countertop, you need to connect those together. And so what they've got is a device that actually not only levels, but it actually helps pull the countertop together, and they're using an epoxy to glue the countertops together with a matching color, which is pretty neat technology when you think about it. Once the trim work is done, the next stage is painting. Painters will come in, they will paint the woodwork first, and then they'll paint the walls after they paint the woodwork. There's many types of wood flooring that can be installed, and in this home we've chosen to install engineered wood flooring because we can get a much wider board and get a stronger architectural look. A really exciting time, I think, for our homeowners is when interior finishes begin. Tile starts to be installed, wood flooring's installed, you see the trim work, painting, cabinetry, countertops. We're seeing it all come together and really create the look that you are going for during your selection process.
In the final episode, we'll take a narrated tour through the furnished model.